The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. In the small town of Ashford Hollow, the soil had turned to black sludge, swallowing boot prints like secrets. Officer David Hale was just about calling night when he saw it. A lone German shepherd standing in the middle of the flooded road, soaked to the bone, eyes fixed on him like it had been waiting. When the dog turned and started walking toward the woods, David followed without a word. He didn't know it yet, but what waited beneath that earth would break every wall he'd built around his heart. The radio crackled softly in the patrol truck, spitting static between the rainfall. The wipers fought the storm, squealing against the glass. David Hale rubbed his thumb along the steering wheel, eyes gritty from a 30-hour shift. Ashford Hollow was quiet. Too quiet. It always was. Just a cluster of aging houses, a gas station, a church with a sagging cross, and 1,000 acres of farmland that hadn't seen a good crop in years. He was halfway down Miller's Road when the headlights caught movement, a shape standing dead center in the lane. "Ah, hell," he muttered, tapping the brakes. The German shepherd didn't move. Its fur clung to its ribs, tail hanging low, eyes glowing amber in the light. David rolled down the window, rain slapping his face. "Hey, buddy, you lost." No collar, no tags, just a scar across its left ear and the faint tremor of cold. The dog tilted its head once, then turned, padding into the darkness. David hesitated, the voice of dispatch crackling through. "Unit 12, status check?" He pressed the mic. "Unit 12, all clear. Just checking something out on Miller's Road." When he stepped into the rain, the cold bit through his uniform like needles. The dog stopped halfway up the embankment, looked back, then disappeared into the trees. God damn it! He grabbed his flashlight and followed. The woods were a wall of wet bark and whispering leaves. Each step sank into mud. Rain drummed against his cap. The beam of his light caught the shepherd again, standing beside a half-buried stump, pawing at the ground. "You trying to show me something?" The dog barked once, sharp, insistent. David knelt, squinting through the rain. The soil was loose, freshly disturbed. His stomach tightened. He'd dug up enough graves in his career to recognize the look of one. He clicked his radio. "Dispatch, this is Hale. I'm at the tree line off Miller's Road, near the old Harlan property. I might have something here." "Copy that. Hale, you need backup?" He hesitated. "Maybe. Send Jensen out this way." The dog backed away as David knelt and began digging with his hands. The mud was cold, slick. His fingers hit something hard, metal, a crate, wooden waterlogged, maybe 2 feet wide, old but sealed tight with nails. His pulse kicked. "You've got to be kidding me." He brushed away the dirt, found a corner of the latch, and pried it open with his pocket knife. The hinges groaned. Inside, wrapped in a tattered quilt, was a small stuffed rabbit and something else. A child's shoe. He froze. Rain filled the silence. The shepherd whined softly beside him. By the time Officer Jensen arrived, the storm had dulled to a steady drizzle. "What the hell, Dave?" Jensen asked, shining his flashlight into the pit. "That's a toy box or something." David shook his head. "There's more under it. The soil's been moved recently." Jensen frowned, squatting beside the crate. "This part town's been empty since the Harlans left. No one's lived out here in 10 years. The shepherd barked again, short, restless bursts, pacing near the trees like it wanted them to follow. "Is that your dog?" Jensen asked. "No," David said. "It found me." Jensen laughed under his breath. "Yeah, sure. Like something out of a ghost story." David didn't answer. His hand brushed something else in the dirt. Another object, this time metal and cold. He pulled it free. A small locket. He opened it with his thumb. Inside, behind the cracked glass, was a photograph of a little girl with blonde hair and green eyes. The name etched on the back read, Lucy. Jensen's voice softened. "Jesus, that's Harlan's kid, isn't it?" David stared at the picture. The girl couldn't have been more than 5. He remembered the old case vaguely. The Harlan family had vanished one night, leaving behind nothing but rumors and a foreclosure notice. The town said they moved north. The record said otherwise. The shepherd whined again, scratching at the ground a few feet away. "There's more!" David whispered. They dug until sunrise. By dawn, the field looked like a battlefield, mud, broken roots, and exhaustion. That's when they hit it. Another crate, heavier this time. David's got twisted before he even pried it open. The smell hit first, damp wood, old rot, and something that made the air go thin. Inside was a collection of personal belongings. A pair of glasses, a Bible, and a stack of faded photographs, each showing the same family, a man, woman, and a little girl. And then, beneath the blanket, bones. Small ones. Fragile. Jensen swore under his breath. "Oh, God!" David stepped back, feeling the ground tilt beneath him. The shepherd sat a few feet away, silent now, eyes fixed on the open crate. He crouched beside it, voice barely above a whisper. "You led me here, didn't you?" The dog didn't move, just stared. Later, when forensics arrived, David stood by his truck, drenched, staring at the tree lean. The medical examiner murmured quietly to the sheriff, who looked like he hadn't slept in years. "Harlan's," the sheriff said finally. "It's them. Every one of 'em." Jensen kicked at the mud. "What do you make of the dog?" David looked over. The shepherd stood by the edge of the field, watching. "Could have been theirs," he said. "Or someone who knew where they were buried." The sheriff frowned. "You think it's been guarding them all this time?" David didn't answer. He watched as the dog turned and disappeared into the trees, silent as smoke. That night, David couldn't sleep. He sat at his kitchen table, staring at the locket on the counter. Rain whispered against the windows. He opened his laptop, typing Harlan disappearance into the old database. The screen lit his face in pale blue. March 2013, Harlan family missing. Husband, Carl Harlan. Wife, Miriam Harlan. Daughter, Lucy, 5. Suspect, none. Case closed due to lack of evidence. He leaned back in the chair, jaw tightening. He'd just started on the force that year. He remembered the sheriff telling him, "Some things are better left buried." Now, a dog had just dug one of them up. He scrolled further until a note caught his eye. A missing persons report filed the same week as the Harlan's disappearance. Name, Alex Wyatt. Age, 27. Occupation, farmhand. Last seen, near the Harlan property. David froze. Wyatt, he knew that name. Everyone in Ashford Hollow did. The man had worked for half the town before he vanished, and rumors said he was sweet on Miriam Harlan. A knock at the door broke his focus. He looked up to see Jensen standing on the porch, holding a paper bag and 2 beers. "You're not sleeping either, huh?" Jensen said. David managed a half-smile. "You shouldn't be here." "Yeah, well, I figure we might as well not sleep together." He sat down, cracking open a beer. "You think that dog's just a coincidence?" David shook his head. "No such thing in this town." Jensen leaned back. "You think Wyatt did it?" David didn't answer. He was staring at the rain running down the glass, and the faint reflection of the locket's photo behind him. "Something doesn't fit," he said finally. "If Wyatt killed them, why hide them and disappear? And why would the dog bring me there, after all these years?" "Because you were the one who could see it," Jensen said quietly. "Or because someone wanted you to." The storm ended 2 days later. By then, the crates were sealed again, bodies sent for analysis. The sheriff had ordered the site closed. The dog hadn't been seen since. Until that evening. David was heading home when he saw it again. The same shepherd, standing at the edge of the old mill road, eyes glowing faintly in the dusk. He pulled over, stepping out into the cool air. "You again," he murmured. The dog wagged its tail once, then turned, walking toward the old mill path, the same route Wyatt used to take to work. David hesitated, then followed. The woods were quiet this time. No rain, just the crunch of gravel and the whisper of wind. The dog stopped by a rusted sign that read Wyatt Farms, closed, and sat down. David's pulse slowed. "What are you trying to tell me?" The shepherd barked once, then looked toward the half-collapsed barn. And in that silence, David saw it, a faint light flickering through a crack in the boards. Someone was inside. He drew his weapon and stepped forward, heart pounding like thunder. The boards of the old barn groaned under Officer David Hale's boots as he stepped inside. His flashlight sliced through the dark. Beams catching on hanging tools, shattered glass, and the skeletal remains of farm equipment left to rot. Dust drifted in the air like falling snow. The rain outside had stopped, but the silence here was thicker, almost alive. The German shepherd padded a few feet ahead, its paws silent on the dirt. It stopped near a corner of the barn, head tilted. David followed the dog's gaze. There, tucked behind an overturned plow, a lantern burned faintly, its flame trembling like it was afraid of being seen. Someone had been here recently. He raised his weapon. Police. Step out slowly. Nothing. Just the hollow whistle of wind through the rafters. He advanced. The air smelled of rust, oil, and something else. Faintly metallic. The kind of smell that didn't belong in an empty barn. Then came the sound. A quiet scrape, metal on wood. David's flashlight darted to the far wall. A figure froze in the beam, a man in a soaked flannel coat, eyes wild, a shovel in one hand. Mud streaked his face. "Put it down," David said, gun steady. The man's jaw tightened. His voice came out raw. "You shouldn't be here." "Neither should you." "I said you shouldn't be here." The man's shout echoed off the beams, startling the dog. The shepherd growled low, stepping forward. David recognized him now. The beard, the eyes, a decade older but unmistakable. Alex Wyatt. The man's expression cracked, a flicker of pain, then fear. "You remember me," David said softly. "You disappeared after the Harlans went missing." Wyatt's hand trembled on the shovel. They wouldn't stop looking. I had to leave." "Looking for what?" Wyatt's gaze flicked toward the dog, then to the ground near his feet. The soil there had been disturbed. David's stomach sank. "What did you bury?" Wyatt swallowed. "Not what you think." "Then show me." Wyatt hesitated, then dropped the shovel. The clatter echoed through the barn. He crouched and pulled back the wet earth with his bare hands. His movements were desperate, almost reverent. After a minute, something wooden appeared, a small box hand-carved, the lid engraved with a child's initials. L.H. David's breath caught. Lucy Harland. Wyatt nodded, tears cutting through the dirt on his cheeks. She was the only one who didn't scream. The words hung in the air like gunfire. David's grip on his weapon tightened. "Explain that." Wyatt's shoulders slumped. "You think I killed them. Tell me I'm wrong." Wyatt looked up, his eyes haunted. "You are." They sat opposite each other in the dim light, rain whispering through cracks in the roof. The dog lay between them, silent, alert. Wyatt spoke first. His voice trembled like it had forgotten how to talk. "Carl Harland. He wasn't the man people thought he was. Everyone saw a churchgoer, a family man. But behind closed doors," he trailed off, shaking his head. "Miriam told me things I didn't want to believe." David stayed quiet, watching him. "She came to me one night, bruised, shaking. She said Carl was losing his mind. He thought Lucy wasn't his." David frowned. "So you helped her leave?" Wyatt nodded. "That was the plan. We were supposed to go that night. I'd saved enough, fix up the truck. But when I got there, his voice broke. The house was already on fire." David froze. There was no record of a fire. "Because the sheriff buried it," Wyatt said bitterly. "Said it was an accident, that they'd moved away. But I saw the smoke. I heard Carl screaming her name. Then why didn't you come forward?" Wyatt's eyes filled with something like shame. "Because I ran. I tried to save them, but by the time I got there, it was too late. And when I saw what was left," he swallowed hard, "I buried what I could. I couldn't leave them for the crows." David's throat tightened. "So the crates were my graves," Wyatt said softly. "Not his." The barn fell silent again, save for the drip of rain from the rafters. David sat back, trying to process it. "You're saying the sheriff covered it up?" Wyatt nodded. "Carl worked for him. Did favors. Dirty ones. I think the sheriff couldn't afford the truth getting out." "That doesn't explain the dog," David said. Wyatt looked toward the shepherd. The animal met his eyes, tail still. "That Scout," Wyatt said quietly. He was Lucy's. David blinked. Her dog. He survived the fire, Wyatt whispered. He used to wait by the graves every night. I'd come back, leave food, then one day he disappeared. I thought maybe he'd gone looking for her. The shepherd shifted closer to Wyatt, pressing its head against his knee. Wyatt's hand trembled as he touched its fur. I didn't think I'd see him again, he said. David felt the ground shift beneath every word. The sheriff, the missing report, the graves. If Wyatt was telling the truth, everything the department believed, everything he believed, was a lie. He stood, pacing. You should have come to me, Alex. We could have reopened it. Wyatt laughed bitterly. You really think they'd have listened? After all this time? I was the outcast farmhand screwing a married woman. The drifter who disappeared. They needed a story that fit. David turned, frustration in his voice. Then why come back now? Wyatt looked up at him, eyes hollow. Because I thought I heard her. David frowned. Who? Lucy. The name hung in the air like a ghost. Wyatt's hand shook. 3 nights ago, I came out here. I heard a girl cry in the woods. Not loud, just soft, like she was calling for help. I followed the sound to the field where you found the crates. When I saw the dog, I thought, he broke off. Maybe it was her way of telling me it's time. David felt a chill crawl up his spine. Time for what? To stop hiding. A knock echoed from the barn door, sharp, heavy, deliberate. David spun, weapon raised. The dog growled low. Another knock. David Hale, a voice called. You in there? The sheriff. David lowered the gun slightly but didn't holster it. What are you doing here, Sheriff? Got a call from a neighbor. Said they saw your truck out here. Figured I'd check. David looked at Wyatt. Stay quiet. He cracked the barn door open just enough to see the sheriff's outline. Wide frame, raincoat dripping, hat low. Evening. Hale, thought you might have headed home. Just following up on something. Out here. The sheriff's tone was too casual. Heard you found something near the Harlan field. Yeah, graves. A pause. You sure that's what they are? David's jaw tightened. You tell me. The sheriff sighed. You've always been too curious for your own good. Then softly, step outside, son. David didn't move. Why? Because I don't like aiming through doors. He looked down, saw the faint gleam of metal in the rain. The sheriff's gun was already drawn. David's pulse slammed. He turned to Wyatt. Back way out. Wyatt nodded, motioning toward a side hatch near the stalls. The sheriff's voice came again, harder. I won't ask twice. David glanced at the dog. Go. Scout darted toward the hatch. Wyatt right behind him. David exhaled, then pushed the door open slowly, stepping out into the rain. The sheriff stood 10 feet away, gun leveled, his eyes cold and unreadable. Where's Wyatt? David kept his voice steady. Gone. The sheriff tilted his head. You're helping him now? I'm helping the truth. The sheriff smiled thinly. Truth don't pay pensions. The next sound was the click of a safety release. David dove sideways as the gun went off. The round tore through the door behind him. He hit the mud, rolled, returned fire. The flash lit the rain for half a second. Enough to see the sheriff stumble, then duck behind a tractor. Don't make me do this, Hale. You already did, David shouted back. Lightning flashed, thunder cracking overhead. The barn shuddered with the noise. Somewhere behind him, the dog barked, once, twice, then silence. David crawled toward the tractor, heart pounding. The smell of gunpowder mixed with wet hay. He rounded the corner, gun raised. Empty. The sheriff was gone. Only his hat lay in the mud. David staggered out into the open, scanning the tree line. The rain was easing again, soft and relentless. Wyatt emerged from the shadows, the dog at his side. You okay? Where is he? Ran toward the creek. David cursed. He won't go far. He knows I've got enough to bury him with this. He pulled the locket from his pocket. Lucy's face staring back under cracked glass. Wyatt's expression faltered. That's hers. David nodded. And maybe the thing that ends this. Wyatt looked down at the dog, then back at David. You can't stop him alone. I'm not alone. The shepherd lifted its head, eyes bright in the fading stormlight. They followed the creek into the night. The trail wound through black water and skeletal trees. Fireflies blinked in the distance, their light like dying stars. After half a mile, they found the sheriff's truck, engine still running, door open, radio hissing. David approached cautiously, gun up. The seat was empty. Then he saw it, footprints leading down the bank toward the old quarry. He motioned to Wyatt. Stay behind me. They moved in silence. The sound of rushing water grew louder. At the edge of the quarry, the sheriff stood under pale moonlight, one hand on his gun, the other holding something small, a pendant. David's breath caught. The same pendant from the crate. The sheriff turned, eyes hollow. You shouldn't have dug it up. She was 5 years old, David said, stepping closer. She wasn't supposed to die, the sheriff roared. It was just supposed to scare her. Make her talk. Carl went too far. I tried to fix it, but you had to dig. The wind howled through the trees. David's hands trembled. You killed them to protect a mistake. The sheriff's lip quivered. I buried them to protect this town. Then who's going to protect it from you? The silence snapped like glass. The sheriff lifted the gun and the shepherd lunged. The shot cracked the night wide open. The dog hit the sheriff square in the chest, knocking him back over the ledge. For a split second, David saw his face. Not fear, not regret, just shock, before he vanished into the dark water below. David ran to the edge, peering down. The surface rippled, swallowed by rain. Wyatt stood behind him, chest heaving. Is he? David nodded slowly. It's over. The dog limped back toward them, muzzle wet, eyes tired. David knelt, resting a hand on its head. Good boy. The animal's breathing slowed. It looked at David one last time, then collapsed. Scout. Wyatt whispered. He knelt beside him, shaking. No, no, no. David felt something break inside. He lifted the dog gently, cradling its weight. The rain washed the blood from its fur, leaving only the quiet rhythm of water and grief. Wyatt's voice was a whisper. He did what I couldn't. David nodded. He protected her, even after death. The next morning, the sun rose over Ashford Hollow for the first time in weeks. Police cars lined the quarry road. Divers pulled the sheriff's body from the water. Reports were written, statements taken, but no one spoke of the dog. Later, when everyone was gone, David and Wyatt buried Scout near the field where Lucy's crate had been found. They marked the spot with a simple wooden cross. David placed a locket beneath it. For a moment, the breeze stilled. Birds stirred in the trees. Wyatt looked at him. You think she's at peace now? David watched the wind ripple the grass. I think they both are. Morning light spilled over the fields like a hesitant apology. The storm had washed Ashford Hollow clean, or so it looked from the outside, beneath the new sunshine, though the town still felt heavy, like it knew what had been unearthed and couldn't decide whether to mourn or hide. Officer David Hale hadn't been to work in 3 days. His badge lay on the kitchen counter, next to a half-drunk mug of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. He sat by the window, staring at the hills that rolled past his property. The same hills where the crates were found. The image wouldn't leave him. The shepherd's eyes fading, Wyatt's shaking hands, the sheriff's hat floating in the quarry. He told himself it was over. But peace doesn't come when the ground's still wet with secrets. The knock came just after noon. He didn't move at first. Then another knock, softer this time. He opened the door to find Wyatt standing there, hat in hand, cleaner now but hollow-eyed. Can I come in? David stepped aside. Wyatt's gaze landed on the badge. You quit. Thinking about it. You're the only one who didn't look away, Wyatt said quietly. If you walk now, they win. David leaned against the counter, arms crossed. They already did, for 12 years. Wyatt hesitated, then pulled something from his jacket, a small, mud-stained envelope. I went back to the barn. David frowned. Why? Because Scout kept digging near the wall that night. I thought Maybe. He placed the envelope on the table. You should see this. Inside was a folded letter, brittle and water-warped, written in looping handwriting. David unfolded it carefully. Alex, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it out. Carl's gone mad. He says Lucy isn't his. I can't reason with him anymore. He keeps the rifle by the bed and talks to himself for hours. If anything happens to me, promise me one thing. Take Lucy somewhere safe. Tell her mother loved her. Tell her she was light in a dark place. Miriam, David's throat closed. The ink had bled in places, but the words were clear enough to sting. She wrote this the night she died. Wyatt whispered. I found it in a tin box behind the beam. David set the letter down, running a hand over his face. So Carl killed them. Wyatt nodded, and the sheriff cleaned it up. But why? David murmured. Why cover for a man like that? Wyatt stared at the floor. Because Carl wasn't just a friend. He was family. David looked up sharply. Family? Cousins. They grew up together. You know. David's pulse quickened. No, I didn't. Whole town knew, Wyatt said bitterly. Sheriff told everyone Carl moved to Michigan. Closed the case himself. Nobody questioned it. David paced the window, staring out at the horizon. And Lucy? Wyatt's voice dropped. Her body wasn't complete. David turned. What do you mean? Wyatt looked at him, eyes dark, almost pleading. There was a second locket in that box, wasn't there? The one you kept. David frowned. Yeah. Did you ever open the back plate? I tried. It wouldn't budge. Wyatt stepped closer. There's a hidden hinge on the left. Use your thumbnail. David hesitated, then retrieved the locket from his jacket pocket. He pressed along the edge until the back popped loose with a faint click. Inside was a folded scrap of paper, smaller than a coin. He unfolded it slowly. A single line, written in trembling ink. She's alive. The world seemed to stop breathing. Wyatt whispered, I didn't write that. Miriam did. David's heart thundered. Lucy's alive? Wyatt nodded once, tears in his eyes. She must have escaped before the fire. Maybe Miriam got her out. Maybe Scout led her away. David looked up. Then where is she? Wyatt's voice trembled. That's what we need to find out. By dusk, they were back at the Harlan property. The police tape had blown away in the wind. The field looked peaceful again, deceptively so. David's boots sank into the softened earth. He could almost hear the echoes beneath, the whispers of those who had waited too long to be found. Wyatt carried a lantern, its light flickering across the old foundations. She could have gone anywhere, Wyatt murmured. There's miles of woods. David crouched near the tree line, scanning the ground. Unless she didn't leave. What do you mean? Kids hide near what they know, David said softly. If she ran from the house, she wouldn't have gone far. He shone the flashlight toward a cluster of oaks at the far end of the property, their roots coiled over what looked like a depression in the ground. The same direction Scout had barked toward the night they found the crates. David's pulse quickened. There. They approached slowly. The grass was taller here, wild and uncut. Beneath it, the faint outline of something man-made, a wooden hatch half-rotted, buried under soil and moss. Wyatt's hand trembled. A storm shelter? David knelt, pried the boards apart with his knife. The hinges moaned as the door gave way. A rush of stale air hit them, dry, musty, cold. They climbed down the steps into darkness. The beam of David's flashlight caught on the walls, lined with shelves of old supplies, jars, tools. And then, in the far corner, something else. A small bed, a blanket, a child's drawing tacked a wall. A house, a woman, a dog. David's heart stuttered. She lived here. Wyatt's voice cracked. All this time, the flashlight flickered, once, twice, and died. Wyatt cursed softly. Battery. David reached for his phone light, but before he could turn it on, a voice broke the silence. Small, fragile, human. Who are you? David froze. A shape moved in the shadows, small, thin, maybe 18, her face streaked with dirt, eyes green as glass. Wyatt whispered, "Lucy?" The girl flinched at the name. "Don't call me that." David lowered his hands. "It's okay. We're not here to hurt you." She backed into the corner, clutching something to her chest. A worn, stuffed rabbit. Her voice shook. "You'll take me back." "No," David said gently. "You're safe now." She looked between them, distrustful. "You don't understand. He's still out there." Wyatt's voice trembled. "Who?" "Carl." David's blood ran cold. "Lucy, Carl's dead. He died 12 years ago." Her eyes hardened. "Then who comes to the woods at night?" The silence that followed was unbearable. David turned to Wyatt. "We need to get her out of here." Wyatt nodded, reaching for her hand. "It's okay, sweetheart. You don't have to be afraid." But before she could move, something upstairs creaked. Boots. Slow. Heavy. Lucy's eyes widened. "He found us." David drew his weapon, signaling Wyatt to kill the lantern. The room sank into darkness. The footsteps moved across the floorboards above, measured, deliberate. A flashlight beam swept past the hatch opening. Then a voice. Male. Calm. Familiar. David's grip tightened. The sheriff's deputy. "Jensen." Wyatt whispered. "What the hell is he doing here?" David motioned for silence. Jensen's voice came again, echoing down the hatch. "You didn't think I'd let this go, did you?" David's heart sank. "You were working with him." "Not with him." Jensen called. "For him. Big difference. The sheriff was paying me to keep it quiet. And now you went and made a mess." Wyatt hissed. "He's lying." Jensen's tone sharpened. "Come on, hell. You really think you're some hero? You don't know what this town runs on. People need things buried. You start digging, you get dirty too." David said nothing. Jensen sighed. "Last chance. Come up slow, leave the girl, and maybe I'll let you walk." Lucy whimpered. Wyatt stepped forward, shaking. "He's bluffing." David's mind raced. The hatch was narrow, a death trap, but if he could distract Jensen long enough. He whispered to Wyatt, "Back wall. The vent shaft, get her out." Wyatt nodded, wrapping an arm around Lucy. David holstered his gun and climbed the first rung of the ladder, just enough to see the silhouette above. Jensen stood near the door, flashlight and pistol raised. His face was pale, wet with rain. "You don't have to do this," David said quietly. "Yeah," Jensen said. "I do." He fired. The bullet tore through the hatch, splintering wood. David dropped back down, pain lancing through his shoulder. Lucy screamed. Wyatt pushed her toward the vent. "Go. Now." David gritted his teeth, pulling himself upright. Blood soaked his sleeve. Another shot split the dark. The lantern shattered, plunging them into total blackness. Then a sound. Low, deep, familiar. A growl. Jensen's flashlight swung toward the noise. From the shadows of the vent, a shape lunged, teeth flashing, eyes burning gold. "Scout." David froze. The dog, impossibly the same one, hit Jensen full force. The man screamed as the beam went wild, gun clattering against the floor. David staggered up the ladder, slamming into Jensen, disarming him. The struggle was brief and brutal. A single punch, a fall, a crack of bone on wood. When it was over, Jensen lay motionless. The dog stood beside David, chest heaving. Mud dripped from its fur. No wounds, no sound, just those same amber eyes. David whispered, "Scout." The dog blinked once, then turned toward the hatch, as if waiting. Down below, Wyatt and Lucy climbed up, gasping. Lucy's eyes widened. "That's him." David nodded slowly. "Yeah, it is." The shepherd stepped back toward the trees, silent, fading into the mist. Lucy whispered, "He always comes when I'm scared." David's chest tightened. "Then you were never really alone." 2 weeks later, the truth came out. Jensen's files were uncovered, the sheriff's ledger seized. The state reopened every cold case Ashford Hollow had tried to forget. David didn't go back to the force. He moved out near the fields, bought a small piece of land, built a fence around Scout's grave. Lucy was placed in care at a nearby center. She didn't speak much, except when the wind picked up. Then she looked out the window and smiled faintly, like she could hear something only she understood. One afternoon, she asked David to visit. He found her sitting by the edge of the garden, legs crossed, sunlight in her hair. "Do you think dogs have souls?" she asked quietly. David smiled. "If they don't, no one does." She looked at him. He stayed until I wasn't scared anymore. David nodded. "That's what they do." A breeze stirred the grass. Somewhere, faint and far away, a single bark echoed across the hills. David turned toward the sound, heart heavy but calm. He placed a locket in Lucy's hand. "This belongs to you now." She opened it, smiled faintly at the picture inside. "Thank you." As he walked back toward his truck, the camera of the world seemed to pull away. The town shrinking behind him, the fields bathed in light, the ghost of Ashford Hollow finally at rest.